can say little bit theory with respect to C programming, right? And I have executed one single program, that is hello world के जैसे आपका first program हमने execute किया था, right? And yesterday I have explained how you create a file within the VS Code. Today also I will explain how can we create a file within VS Code, how can we execute the program. Let us go to VS Code first. Those who are coming for the first time, when you have installed VS Code on your desktop, on your machine, you have a VS Code as a shortcut icon. So you can double click on that and just open the VS Code. So I request everyone, you can go along with me and just open VS Code. Today I will show you the complete steps again, so that if someone missed in the last lecture, there's a revision for them. Those who were available yesterday, it's a revision. Tomorrow onwards, I will not show you how to create a file in VS Code. Okay. Today we are in day 2. So I have created a day 2 folder. Yesterday, you have created OM5 folder. Inside OM5, you had created day 01. Today, I have created day 02. I request everyone, please create day 02 folder somewhere on your machine. Maybe C drive, D drive, E drive, F drive, wherever you want to create. Just create day 02. All right. If you are done with creating a folder, then go to File, Open Folder, and click on day 2. Select folder. So this will open day 2 as your current workspace, right? So this is the area where I'm going to work for this day, right? Now, when we talk about opening a folder, or you can say a workspace, in that case, this is like I am going to work under day 2, and that is what is today's task. So this is called as a workspace for today, right? I'll close this welcome screen. When you see this day 2, this is called as Explorer window. In this Explorer window, on the left hand side, you have day 02, which shows that you are under this directory, right? Now, when you are working under this directory, in that case, there is an icon which is called as new file. There is an icon which is called as new folder. There is icon which is called as refresh, and this is collapse, means it will go back, right? So when I'm saying I want to create a file, I want to write a program, I want to develop my program. In that case, first of all, when you want to develop a program, I need something called as editor, and that editor is your VS Code editor, right? And how I create a file? First of all, you create a new file. When you create a file, make sure you should give your file name in a proper manner. For example, I am giving day2_1.c, which stands for, or which normally convention that I will be going to follow is, today it's our day 2 and I'm writing _1. That means it is my first program. Day 2 first program. .c is the extension that I'm giving to this program. Now, when I'm giving .c, that means my compiler will come to know that this is a program which will be written in C programming language. So I'll press enter. As soon as I press enter, you will receive some editing area. Here I will write a program. And yesterday I have explained that there is something called as some header file inclusion area. And here I will include stdio.h, let us say stdlib.h. Initially, we will add only 2 header files. As and when time comes, if required, we will add few more header files. These are the header files, which is also called as file inclusion area, and this is used for using when I'm going to use some predefined functionality. Now, when I'm saying I want to write a program, and in that case, there is something called as entry point function. So, main is called as entry point function. From this, your program is going to execute. And yesterday, we have written something called as hello program, right? And I had return a return 0. Make sure yesterday I have given you explanation about right now I am using only one type of main. That means only one prototype or you can say this is called as main function declaration. मैंने यहाँ पे main function ऐसे लिखा है. As and when time comes, we will use or we will declare main function in different way also. And that is called as different flavors of main that we have in C programming language. So for time being, you can consider that every main, whenever I'm writing a main inside the program, this is called as entry point function. Right now, it is having a printf statement. It will try to print the hello for me, and there is return 0, right? This is basically a program which is hello program or first basic C program, right? Now, when I'm talking about terminal, terminal mein you go to new terminal. This is where I have first written a program. So this is my editing area. Editing area means I am trying to edit my program over here in this area. And I want to see the output. To see the output, I will try to execute through the terminal. I'll go to this terminal and I'll say open terminal. Here, when I'm writing GCC, and my program name is day2 underscore 1 dot c. When we write GCC, it is like I am giving one command to compile the C program. Which program I want to compile? I want to compile day2 underscore 1 dot c file. And whenever I try to compile my source code, this is also called as a source code or a program. Source code means the code which is written by the user in any programming language. So if I'm writing GCC day2 underscore 1 dot c, that means I am giving instruction to the compiler that I need to compile this program. What my program will do in the compilation phase? My compiler will try to convert this particular program into machine understandable language, right? As soon as I press enter, if there are no errors into this program, there is something called as a.exe file is generated. Now, how this a.exe file is generated, what are the intermediate steps within the compilation process that I'm going to explain. But how to, till this point, this will show me how to compile the program. How to execute, I'll write dot slash a.exe. It is printing me hello. Okay, I'll not include slash n for time being. I'll just execute it again. Slash n, I have not yet introduced you. Let us just wait for that. So it is displaying me hello, right? This hello will basically print the whatever number of characters or whatever number of you can say characters I have written within this printf, those are printed on your output screen. This output screen is called as terminal. Sometimes you call it as a command prompt. So, and sometimes you can call it as a console also. So all these are the same terminologies that are used. Now, in case of this, printf is one function. And since I am giving or I am using this function, I know that whenever I will use this printf function, the data will be printed on my output screen. Have I defined this functionality? No. I am just using this printf function. When I'm just using this printf function, in that case, I have its own definition defined inside this predefined header files called as stdio.h. And when we talk about standard header file, that means standard input output.h header file, this is basically already available inside your bin folder. Means when you have installed GCC, from that you will understand that these are the predefined library functions that I'm using, right? Till this point, I have explained in the last lecture. Let me see, few queries are there. Why we use slash n? That's the reason I just removed it. Slash n is for new line, but I have not introduced slash n right now. So just wait for one more lecture. I will come to that point. Okay, right. So you can execute dot slash a dot exe, and this is how it is giving me the output. Now, first of all, let me ask you one question, and you can post it into the chat box. Whenever you are working on any application, just listen to the question. Whenever I am installing any application, you can take any application. You can take in your phone, if you're installing, let us say Chrome, if you're installing, let us say Facebook, if you're installing WhatsApp, if you're installing some any file, if you're installing, then how many number of executable files are there for one single application? I hope you have understood the question. The question is, when you install any software or any application, how many executable files are there normally? Someone is saying n number of files, someone is saying one, someone is saying don't know. Good. Right. The answer is there is only one executable file for one application. Now let us consider the scenario, or let me first go to the slide and show you this process. So yesterday I have just introduced what do you mean by compilation. It's the application program which converts high-level programming language code into low-level programming language. So C source code is converted into low-level programming language code. So GCC is your GNU's compiler collection that we are using. You must have used something or heard about something called as Turbo C. That is Turbo compiler that was given by Borland. So these are the different. There can be different compilers available for converting your high level language into your low level language, right? Now, when I'm talking about compiler, any programming language, if I'm writing any program in any programming language, in that case, I need a compiler to convert that code, right? And this is why we have installed GCC, because GCC is a compiler which will convert my C program into low-level language, my C++ program into low-level language. When you go for, let us say, Java, then in that case, you require a JDK compiler. That is Java Development Kit. When you go for Python, you require a different compiler. So every language needs a compiler such that your machine can understand that code. And that is what is the difference. You can, yesterday few students were asking, what is the difference between editor and the compiler? Editor is basically, you can say VS Code is your editor, where you can edit your program, you can write your program, but compiler will actually convert your program. But now the question is how your compiler converts your program. So when I say my program is getting converted, in that case, it goes through program execution phases, right? Now, first of all, when I say program execution phases, right? Low level means you can consider binary or any executable file, any file which your machine can understand. That is low level program, low level language. Okay. Now, let us say I'm sharing whiteboard and I'm explaining you the compilation process, right? First of all, just a second. Hmm. I'll share this, I'll share a whiteboard now to explain you the compilation process, right? Now, let us assume I have, let us assume I have one project, right? I'm working on single project, right? And let us say this project is having three files, three source files. Let us say file1.c. Second file name is file2.c, and third is basically, let us say, file3.c. So I'm working on one single project, and it is always possible that whenever we are working on large projects, there may be n number of files which are available within that project. So I will say this is nothing but my source code files, which are having the extension .c files, right? Now, जैसे ही I give the compilation process, in that case, first step is basically your pre-processing step. Now, what I mean by pre-processing, so there are different phases. Let me just go over here. First phase is your pre-processing phase. So in this case, what actually happens is basically जो भी मेरा hash include statement है, for example, there is hash include. Whenever we will do something called as macro topic, that macro expansion, whenever we will see some pre-processor directives, all these things we will see in detail. But for time being, you just remember, you just understand hash include is one type of pre-processing. So when I'm talking about pre-processing, in that case, first of all, whenever I have included this hash include, the next step is your program will try to perform pre-processing task. What is pre-processing? It will try to bring your linked files into your program. मैंने लिखा है hash include stdio.h, yes. Hash include stdlib.h, yes. So it will try to bring your header files from the standard memory location to your program. So this is called as the second step, which is called as pre-processing step. So this is pre-processing. Once this pre-processing is done, after that, it is generating something called as expanded code. So I am saying मेरे program में hash include stdio.h आ गया, hash include stdlib.h आ गया, means my code has been expanded now. Expanded means its size gets increased because I have brought the header files in my program. So once I will receive expanded code, then that expanded code is given to compiler, and that is your GCC compiler. Because when I say I have written a source code, first of all is pre-processing, because when your compiler will try to see the code from line 1 to last line, in that case it will check, is there any predefined function used, is there any header file which is included. If yes, then it will bring from that. Now, first of all, when I have initially that is a source code .c file, once I generate expanded code, who generates it? Your system generates it. You are not aware about all the internals of all this. How your system is doing, this is what is the process that I'm explaining. Now, Expanded code is basically your .i file. So पहले मेरा .c file रहता है and immediately once the code gets expanded, I will receive .i file. How do I see a dot? How do I know that this is a .i file? It is not visible. You can just see directly exe file. तो आपको सिर्फ .c से .exe फाइल दिखती है, आपको intermediate files नहीं दिखती है. The reason is if I'm having .c file, expanded code is getting generated. It is having the extension called as .i file. So after pre-processing, which file gets generated? .i file is generated. Once this .i file is generated, that is used by my compiler. Now, the compiler will come to know that this is my .i file. So here I will have a .i file on which your compiler is going to work. Once this .i file is generated, compiler will convert your program into assembly code. Now, why it converts into assembly code? Because your CPU understands only instructions. That means if you must have heard that CPU is having, let us say, first fetch cycle, then decode cycle, then execute cycle. That means everything is converted into the form of instruction because CPU executes your programs in the form of instructions only. So I need to convert that particular .i file contents into some instruction, and that instructions is known as assembly code. Now, whenever I receive a .i file, compiler will first generate .asm file. So after this process .i file के बाद, I will receive one more internal file which is called as .asm. You can call it as .asm in case of Windows, or in case of Ubuntu, you may receive .s file. Now what happens? Once this file is generated, the previous file gets destroyed automatically. Now my compiler will work on .s file. Now what is this what is available inside this .s file? .s file is called as assembly code file, which will be given to assembler. So assembler is one more language converter that is used when we are executing the programs. Assembler will try to give the instructions in the form of assembly language, and these instructions will be given to the CPU for execution of the project. But before the assembler works onto this ASM file, immediately after that, there is one OBJ file is generated. What is OBJ file? It is called as object file, right? Now, when I create this OBJ file, that means for this particular assembler, after that, OBJ file is created. So let us assume in our code, we were having three files, file1.c, file2.c, file3.c. जैसे ही मेरे ये सारे असेंबली कोड बन जाएंगे, immediately इसके बाद my compiler will generate object files for each file. So let us say file1.i, file1.s, file2.i, file2.s, file3.i, file3.s. Once these files are generated, then it will generate, let us say, file1.obj, file2.obj, and let us say, let me just write first, file1.obj will get generated. After that, let us say file2.obj, that is object file, gets generated, and third, file3.obj will get generated. Now, जैसे ही मेरा file obj बन गया, after that there is one exe file generated. But before working on this exe file, there comes a linker. So what actually happens is, initially I have a source code. That code is expanded, so I will get it as expanded code. That code is given to the compiler. It will convert into assembly code. That code is given to the assembler, and then it converts into object code. And this object code is converted again into executable code. Now logically if I speak, अगर फाइल 1 फाइल 2 फाइल 3 है तो हर टाइम यहाँ पे मेरे तीन यहाँ पे फाइल 1 डॉट आई बनती रहेगी, यहाँ पे फाइल 2 डॉट आई एंड फाइल 3 डॉट आई. Here also file 1.s, file 2.s, file 3.s, file 1.obj, file 2.obj and file 3.obj. But immediately after this, if I say, if I generate, let us say, next 3 files. Assume if you generate 3 exe files, it is not possible at all. I'm just explaining you why, what do you mean by exe file and why there is only one. If I'm saying file 1.exe ek bana, assume. If I'm saying file 2.exe bana, assume. And if I'm saying I have got, let us say file 3.exe, right? And let us assume now I am selling this particular project to some customer, right? So my project is sold to some other customer. The customer will not be able to see all these intermediate steps. How I can give this project to that customer? I will give, let us say, exe files only, correct? Now, if I'm giving only exe files, that is executable file, that person will not come to know what intermediate steps I have done. You have installed n number of applications. आपने मोबाइल पे भी इतने सारे एप्स इंस्टॉल किए रहेंगे, आज तक इतने सॉफ्टवेयर्स इंस्टॉल किए, नॉर्मली सबका एक ही exe फाइल है. अगर मैं आपको यहाँ पे बोलूंगी प्लीज फाइल 1.exe है, फाइल 2.exe है, फाइल 3.exe है, दिस इज लेट अस से ऐसे करके आई हैव 3 फाइल्स and now I am telling to the end user, first you follow the sequence, execute this exe, then execute this exe and then you execute this exe. मैं ऐसा sequence बोल रही हूँ, right? Now how many times I can give instruction to the user? I cannot give instructions to the user that these are the 3 files, you have to follow this sequence. If you do not follow, your project will not work. This is only 3 files. Assume मेरे पास एक और project है, project 2, and in this project I have 1.exe, एक फाइल है, 2.exe, एक फाइल है, 3.exe, ऐसे करके मेरे पास let us say 50 exe फाइल्स है, right? अगर मेरे पास एक सिंगल प्रोजेक्ट की 50 exe फाइल्स है, उसमें से I am telling to the customer or I am telling to the end user, you have to follow the sequence. क्या सीक्वेंस फॉलो करना है? पहले जो थर्ड फाइल है, यू प्लीज एग्जीक्यूट दैट, राइट? देन जो सेकंड फर्स्ट फाइल है, यू प्लीज एग्जीक्यूट दैट. देन जो 50th वाली फाइल है, प्लीज एग्जीक्यूट दैट, राइट? सो दिस इज द सीक्वेंस दैट यू हैव टू फॉलो. Will anyone will remember this? Of course, no one will buy my project. No one will see into this project because this is very difficult for remembering the sequence and following the sequence, right? So what actually happens whenever any object file is generated, then there comes a linker in between. What is the job of linker? Linker performs normally few tasks, right? I'll mention the tasks for linker. First most important task, combining all .obj files into one single .obj. That is the first most important task. And second, linking of pre-libraries, right? Now, what do you mean by all this? When I'm talking about linker, the linker will combine all .obj files into one single obj. अभी तक हमने जो VS कोड लिखा उसमें एक ही फाइल थी, तो उसका एक ही .obj बना, उसका एक ही exe बना. यहाँ तक मेरे पास कोई भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. But if I have a project which will have multiple obj files, linker will combine all these obj files all together. That means this object file is given to linker, this object file is given to linker, this object file is given to the linker. Linker, it's the job of linker to link these object files and generate only one single obj file. And once my अगर मेरे पास एक ही सिंगल obj फाइल बन जाती है तो obviously from that I can easily generate one exe. तो यहाँ पे इसके बाद मेरी single dot exe फाइल बनती है. So that is the first class of linker, combining all .obj files into single obj. So how it performs? It is a job of linker. Linker will combine multiple obj files, perform some linking operation between them and generate one single obj. अगर एक single obj बन जाती है, then it generates one single exe file. And that is the reason we have always, for one single application, there is only one exe file, because whenever we convert our project which is having multiple number of files, they may generate multiple number of obj files, and those obj files must be linked together, because I cannot tell anyone ki please execute 50th file, please execute 25th file, please execute 100th file, please execute first file. You have to follow the sequence. This I cannot do, and that's the reason the linker will do the job for me. This will try to link and generate one single object. And जैसे ही मेरी single object file बन गई, इसके बाद one single .exe file is generated. इसलिए जब मेरा project बनता है तो मेरे अब if my project name was, let us say I am giving one project name as project, then यहाँ पे मेरे project की project.exe फाइल बनेगी, एक ही फाइल exe फाइल बनेगी. Understood? Now this exe is given to your processor for the execution. So after linker there comes a loader. Loader will load your project or program inside main memory for execution. This is the job of loader. So this is what is called as complete compilation process. I have explained the first job of linker, which will combine all obj files into one single obj file. And the other task of linker is linking of libraries. Now, in my program, I have used printf function, right? Where is my printf function defined? It is defined inside stdio.h. Who is going to link that? My linker is going to do this. Linker will try to link your functions which you have used in your program, linking to your standard libraries. So that is the second job. You can find करेगा कि printf function stdio में है कि नहीं है. So there must be someone who can perform this task, and that is nothing but linker job. So if you see this diagram, then if I have only one single file, then the job of linker is to only link with the library files and generate exe code. But if I have multiple number of object files, then all the libraries and other object files are linked together to generate one exe for one single project. Okay, so that is the reason जब मैंने मेरा VS Code में प्रोग्राम एग्जीक्यूट किया, I was having one single file, but उसका एक ही exe बना. So this is called as complete compilation phase. I am unable to see any obj file, any I file on any internal files, because it gives me direct exe. So can you imagine कि जब GCC compiler, the one who have designed this GCC compilation process, that a person have, or that developer have gone through all these phases by generating these many number of intermediate files. All right. So this is called as program execution phase for any program. Understood? Executable file means exe file via which you can execute the program side. आपको कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट एग्जीक्यूट करने के लिए आप, फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ आई एम डेवलपिंग अ प्रोजेक्ट, आई एम टेकिंग अप सम क्वेरी, Sahil have asked what is executable file. So if you are saying I have developed a project and I cannot give source code to someone, right? You norm अगर आप कोई भी एप्लीकेशन इंस्टॉल करते हो तो आपको उस एप्लीकेशन का सोर्स कोडिंग कैसे किया हुआ है आपको वो सब कुछ नहीं आता है. आपको सिर्फ एक एग्जीक्यूटेबल फाइल मिलती है जो आप इंस्टॉल करते हो और वो आप यूज करते हो. एंड एवरी एप्लीकेशन इज हैविंग वन एग्जीक्यूटेबल फाइल. अंडरस्टूड? Linker is having two tasks. One is combining all obj files into one, and second is linking of libraries. For example, if I have obj files, multiple number of obj files are there, and those all are linked together in one single file, and that is called the job of linker, right? Assembler is basically when you try to give your program to the CPU, it is basically given in the form of instruction set. So instructions are written in assembly language, that is why it needs to be converted into assemblers. Even if just 150 object files are arranged serially, for you as a program, if they are arranged serially, but how you're going to give the instruction to every person that you have to execute 50 exe files, this is not at all feasible for you. अगर आपको एक सिंगल ऐप इंस्टॉल करने के लिए कहा और एक ऐप इंस्टॉल करने के बाद मैंने आपको कहा कि यू प्लीज एग्जीक्यूट दिस ऐप, but backend में you have to execute 50 other files also. Will you ever touch that app? Obviously no. So that is what is the job of linker, right? No, it is, see, this is already, you do not need to install a linker, because when you install compiler, that means these all are the compilation processes or compilation internal steps, right? And you do not have to install linker separately. That is a part of compilation process, and that is what I have shown you. That is internal execution of your program. Every job is done by your compiler, who creates .obj, converts into, your compiler converts it. And that's the reason if you observe the heading of this program, it says program execution phases. Yes, Pranav, compiler converts .obj and so on. How obj file is created? That is basically job done by compiler. Linker generates .exe file. This is not this is currently we are doing till compilation process. Means what? जब आप प्रोग्राम में gcc program name.c लिखते हो तो इंटरनली आपकी a.exe फाइल कैसे जनरेट होती है, राइट? कैसे जनरेट होती है वो प्रोसेस है. आर यू गेटिंग सुयश? Vaishnavi is saying, ma'am, linking library means, for example, Vaishnavi, we have used here printf statement. I'll stop this whiteboard share and I'll go back to main screen. I may use whiteboard n number of times while explaining the code. Vaishnavi is asking, ma'am, linking library means. Now, for example, you are writing printf. Now, where your printf is written inside your stdio.h. So, who will go to stdio.h and get the functionality of this printf statement? That is nothing but your compile. That is nothing but your linker. So this is the job of linker, because it is linking this function calling to this. Okay. Shivam, that's what I have explained right now. Janvi is saying linking only search from which library function. No, it takes out the functionality. It checks the function declaration, function X. You will understand how the basically linking takes place when we will see user defined functions. .i फाइल को कौन बनाता है? आपका कंपाइलर. If there is only one file, then there is any need of linker. Sampada, in that case, your linker will just link your header file library functions with your header files. That's it. But if I have multiple files, then it will generate single obj by combining. Why the name of exe file is always a.exe? It is compiler generated. किसी किसी को आपको day2_1.exe भी जनरेट होता होगा. अगर आप टर्मिनल के थ्रू प्रोग्राम एग्जीक्यूट कर रहे हो तो हमेशा आपकी a.exe फाइल बनेगी. Ujjwal, if you are on Windows platform, then this ./a.exe, which I am showing you on the screen, is correct. Yes, all the files are deleted. Just one .i.s, all the files are deleted. Intermediate files are deleted because a.exe file is generated at the end. See, Poonam is saying, if we install any application in mobile, that time we do not install any compiler. So how the process takes place? See, this is the process which is done at the compilation phase. Development phase होने के बाद आपका compilation phase आता है जहाँ पे आपको exe file बनता है. So it is not always necessary कि आपका जो कोड है वो C में लिखा हुआ है. Are you getting? C का प्रोग्राम आपको एग्जीक्यूट करना है तो आपको कंपाइलर लगेगा. नॉर्मल exe फाइल्स को एग्जीक्यूट करने के लिए नॉट नेसेसरी यू नीड ऑलवेज अ कंपाइलर, राइट? ओके, okay, Ujjwal, is your dot backslash is used? Are you getting the output? Okay, then it may differ in some of the compilers. Yes, Pranav is saying .s.i आया फिर .s आया तो .i फाइल डिलीट हो जाती है. Yes, Pranav. See, Janvi, this how your compiler comes to know that file is from XYZ library. जैसे ही मैं printf function for example लिखा है तो मेरा compiler खुद से ही मेरा that's a job of linker. That's what I'm explaining. Linker will try to search whether printf is available in stdr.h, whether it is available in stdlib.h, and so on. Accordingly, it will proceed ahead. Okay. Yes, this is what is your job of linker only. So it will search automatically. Linking उसी को करना है ना. So who will link all your library functions.